Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that talks with tomorrow's hoop stars. I am Rich Harris, and thank you for joining us again. Today, I'm joined by Drew Barton, and only Drew Barton. And that seems appropriate since we're going to talk some about the West Coast Conference. And today, first of all, we're going to talk with four mid-major stars, including a top NBA draft prospect in St. Joe's forward, Rasheer Fleming. We'll start with a quick college hoops notebook and finish with making our predictions for the West Coast Conference tournament. So Drew, last night when I wrote the script, I was kind of in a mood. I was in a mood. I wasn't in the best of moods. And one of the reasons is I was watching, I was day behind on my games, and I was watching Monday night's broadcast of Wake Forest and Duke. And I guess I got to preface this by saying a couple of things. ESPN, I don't know what it is. I don't know who does the hiring there. But if you are a college basketball guy and watch games all over the place, so that's CBS, Fox, and ESPN. Now, ESPN runs the SEC network, the ACC network. They don't run the Big Ten network, which is why when you're watching games on ESPN and they go to the halftime highlights and show you scores from other games, they never show you the Big Ten.
Big Ten, yep.
But yeah, ESPN has the majority of it, and they really do. And I'm not talking about ESPN Plus, where it's small guys, local guys doing games.
Yep.
I'm not complaining about them, but there's some of their biggest announcers, and I'll exclude Jay Billis from this, even though he gets on my nerves once in a while. But some of their other biggest announcers are really annoying, narcissistic, self-promoting, and just downright annoying. I don't really want to get into names and stuff. At least I'm not. I've calmed down, so I'm not going to go on the rant that I originally said. But I will say this: I was really bothered when it was brought up during the Wake Forest Duke game that Cooper Flagg said that he might come back.
Yep.
And, of course, the fans, when he left that blowout, they blew out Wake Forest. When he left that game, the fans were all saying, one more year. And Corey Alexander was laughing and was saying, there's no way he's coming back, and there's no way he should come back. That would be the dumbest decision ever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And Corey Alexander, do you remember the incident with Tony Bennett last year?
I do not.
Okay. So, and now you have worked along press row. You have done some play-by-play. You have done a lot of stat keeping, so you know what it's like along press row. Mm-hmm. You also know, as a play-by-play guy or as an analyst or as anybody that's sitting along that row in between the two benches, you're not supposed to fucking intercede in the game in any way.
You have to be. I've been at the table from the NAIA, Division II. I've done D1. I've statted D1 games this year. I've statted St. Mary's games, USF games. Good teams. We're not talking about like I've been at good teams. Net neutrality. Whether even if you are employed by the school, you are supposed to be completely neutral.
You're not supposed to cheer. You're not supposed to wear gear. I don't think.
If you're employed by the school, you can wear a polo gear or something, but you can't be like a fan. It's
right. No,
complete neutrality.
Yeah, which just amazes me because sometimes I see quote unquote media at games once in a while cheering. Now it's usually somebody from the student paper or something like that.
Sure.
So, you kind of let that slide, but there are people out there that do a little more cheering in the press section than you would imagine. Of course, it's not the big guys. But anyway. So Corey Alexander during this Virginia game last year the refs, I don't know why this is, but the refs apparently, at least at this Virginia game, and I don't remember who they were playing, it was very close toward the end of the game, and it was an out of bounds call, and the refs could not make up their mind. But the TV had a better angle, and it was clear that the ball was out on Virginia. Virginia had knocked the ball out. The refs couldn't see that on their replay. And Corey Alexander, when they were walking back on the court, basically to stick with the call on the court, which would have given the ball to Virginia as opposed to the other team.
Yeah.
He got the refs' attention and told them that they had a better angle.
Yeah, man, that's not your job. That's not your role.
Right. And only a narcissist does something like that.
For sure. For sure.
And wait, it gets better. So the refs look at the replays the TV had and rule against Virginia. Tony Bennett blew a gasket.
As he should.
And started yelling across. Tony Bennett, who's super calm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yelling and pointing and I assume cursing at Corey Alexander for putting himself in the game when it wasn't his responsibility. And the irony of this, he went to the University of Virginia. This is his alma mater.
Yeah.
But the point about Cooper Flagg is, just let the kid be. If money is not the end all be all,
especially now. Money is not the end all be all for Cooper Flagg is going to be taken care of for the next. If he comes back or leaves, he's going to be fine. And let's be real here. You don't think he's going to be at worst a top 3 pick next year? Ooh, I mean, I still think he'd be number 1 the way he's playing right now. Like if he comes out next year, this year, it's like
exactly. Yeah. And here's the other thing. Injuries aren't what they used to be. Most injuries were ACL. Sometimes you were never the same. I forget what Ron Harper Sr. had, but when he came out of Miami of Ohio, when he first played with the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was amazing.
Right? Oh yeah, he was an all-star, wasn't he?
Yeah, if he wasn't, he should have been. I think he was second in the dunk contest, but he could do everything.
Yeah.
And now everybody knows him playing for, second fiddle to Michael Jordan at Chicago as a defensive ace. But before that, he was an all-star in his own right.
Yeah.
And then injuries, and you can name player after player in the old days of the NBA that never were the same after injuries. Pete Maravich, Bill Walton. But it's not that way anymore.
No. In today's basketball landscape, and this is being around athletes and whatnot. And again, the highest of the high, when I was at Stanford football down to NAI, outside, I would say the only injuries that legitimately, like around the trainers that I've been around, and I'm good friends with athletic trainers from Menlo, I'm good friends with quite a few of them that some have gone on to Santa Clara. It's Achilles. That's always kind of like the one where it's like, no matter what, there's always a fear. Anything with the head, obviously, just because those can compile. And then with basketball players, it's feet, like a foot injury, like feet injuries, especially on the bigs, no matter what. But like everything else, I mean, unless it's an extreme, like I broke my back kind of thing, but like even ACLs, I mean, we're at the D2 level and there's people that tore their ACL during soccer season and are already like working out again. And that would have been, only 6 months
some people have been known to come back in like 6 months.
Yeah. And we already have, we had a girl who tore her ACL. She's not fully back, but like, she's trying to transfer with all the news going on, and she's like on the field doing workouts and stuff, to a degree. And I'm like, she tore her ACL maybe 7 months ago.
Zach Freemantle, hurt now foot. You're right about feet and back because Joel Embiid had back problems. Well, he had foot problems and back problems in college, and of course he's never been. But Joel Embiid, anyone in the Philadelphia area knows, has never really gotten ever back in shape like he was in college. He's always been playing overweight. That guy looked like an Adonis in college. And then when he came back from his injury and started playing in the NBA, it's like, who's this guy? He's not the same guy I remember. He's like carrying a lot of extra weight. And he always has.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid doesn't really love the game, and he just loves the attention and the money. But anyway, I digress. But this is going to be one of those shows. like, but the thing that really what bothers me about Corey Alexander is most people would totally disagree with what I'm saying. Any of our listeners, well, maybe our listeners are a little different because they're really into college basketball. But if we were on ESPN right now, 9 out of 10 people would say you're nuts. Okay, and why? Money. Yeah. And how many? I just can't. I think there's got to be a certain limit to how much, like when you see Peyton Manning or LeBron James, and these guys are like multi-millionaires, and they're doing more commercials, and you're like, how much money do you need? Are you trying to buy your own country, or what are you doing here? Why aren't you out on the golf course? Why are you doing commercials? And the other thing is you cannot ever get this time in your life back.
That's the thing I agree most. It's college is for a guy like Cooper Flagg would be 4 years max. He's not redshirting, and you pray that he stays healthy. I mean, look, if you asked me as a college basketball fan, I'd love to see him come back because I think it would set a really great precedent. It would be like college basketball is better when it has stars because the sport's already so, pushed to the side and people talk so down on how it's not a good product. And so when you have a Cooper Flagg who's young, upcoming, clearly going to be, potential face of American basketball going forward. Like, I think that's where we're getting to with him is like he's a great American prospect, not an international guy. And look, but like when's the last time we had a great white American prospect that wasn't a European guy like a Luka or a Jokic coming in? So I think that carries it. Look, I think he's going to go. I think he's kind of playing into it. I think he's, it's fun for him to a little bit, to give the fans something to think about. And who knows? He seems like a competitive.
I think that would kind of be cruel.
I do think it'd be kind of cool. I think it boils down.
I mean, cruel. I didn't say cool. I said cruel.
No, cruel. Yeah,
tease the fans like that.
I do think, but I think there's also a realization from the kids. Like they're gonna say, I think they're also chanting it back, kind of like joking. I think there's a little bit.
You think there's no chance he's coming back?
I don't say no because I do think March Madness will be where the factor. If they go into March and flame out, I think they won't. But there's the questions.
Well, what if they got to the final game and lost to Auburn on some kind of last second crazy shot or something?
I think March will be if they flame out or get right there. If they get to I would say if they get to the Sweet 16 to Final Four and lose, I think he's gone. My gut would tell me he's gone no matter what. But if they flame out in the first weekend or get to the finals and lose, and especially it's a competitive game, I would not rule out. I would be more inclined to say he might actually come back. Because people also forget, he's young. He moved up a year.
Right.
To come play at Duke. Like,
age is his twin.
He just turned 18, I think.
Yes, December.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like, I would say my gut tells me for better, he's going to leave. And there's not a lot that can change that. It would require something probably to go really wrong or to get this close and come short for him to maybe change that. But I also, I can also understand just solely from the business standpoint of I'm going to be 18 years, a freshly minted 18-year-old that's going to get $17 million a year and be the first overall pick. Now, who knows? Maybe he sees the Washington Wizards get the first pick and he's like, I want no part of that. I'll go back to Duke for another year. That could totally happen. I think that's also a thing. We've seen that in sports before where guys leverage them. It's not common, but guys will leverage and be all like, look, I make good money at Duke.
A lot of players, John Elway, Eli Manning, they basically, they didn't leave the draft, but they basically said, if you draft me, I want to be traded. Right.
Yeah, no, and I could see, could I see him go, Duke's a better brand than the Washington Wizards? I could totally see him being like, you know what? I'm cool. I don't want to go there. I'll stay at Duke. Yeah, I won't make $18 million a year, but I'll make some good money. I'll be at Duke. We're coming in with a loaded class. We're going to be a top 5 team next year and see where it goes. So if you put a gun to my head and told me pick, I think he goes just because guys that's the norm. That's I would say 95 plus 99% of guys are going to go if they're going to be the number one pick. Like he has cemented himself as that, barring a catastrophic injury, which, knock on wood, I don't want that to happen. But I don't think I agree that like the way the landscape has changed with college, with the money, the brand, like I do agree. Let the kid be a kid. Let him make that decision. And be like, can like college basketball fans have anything? Can we have anything? Like everyone's already. It's been an awesome week of games. There's been all these buzzer beaters, these last second plays. March Madness right around the corner, and it's like, oh no, you stupid! You think he's gonna stay? He needs to get out of here. It's like, dude, let us like have the thought that hey, maybe this is like the college basketball messiah. Like maybe this guy is like, I want to be the next Christian Laettner, and I'm gonna stay here for 4 years, and we're going to straight
Oh
final.
my gosh.
But like I just like let college basketball fans.
The website I hate ChristianLaettner.com still exists.
I mean, there's a 30 for 30 titled that. But I'm just saying, like let college basketball fans have that. Coop is an awesome kid. Going back to the start of the, back when we were doing the show at the start of the season, I've been high on him, and he's any questions I've had, which weren't many, he's answering them. I get it, the ACC sucks for sure, but he's doing what you're supposed to do against crappy competition.
Right.
He's dominating people. I'd be more concerned if he was putting
part of the reason why they look so bad is because when Duke plays them, they beat them by 25.
It's like 35.
Yeah, right.
So we can both go on about this. Look, Cooper Flagg is probably leaving. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but I would not be shocked, and I totally see a very viable path where he goes, you know what, maybe one more year. Why not? I mean, people forget, Flip was going to be a lottery pick. People were talking about him in the top 10 maybe at one point. He came back. Now it didn't work out for him. But
right, but there were other factors there. There were other factors there.
There's other factors, and I think Coop is a much more
which had nothing to do with his play on the court. It had to do with his personal life. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like to my standing, Coop is a much more bulletproof prospect on the court, and it seems like already off the court.
And so much better player too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's bulletproof. Like this kid can do whatever he wants, and I'm on board. I really like Cooper Flagg. I think he's good for the sport. He plays with a fire and a passion that like is very great. It's great to see from a kid who, he's not a Ben Simmons, he's not a guy that has that top billing kind of locked up, and he's cool. That kid's going out there every night to tear your head off, and he's like, I don't care if it's Miami, I'm going for 40. Stop me. So we can go on and on. I love Cooper Flagg. I would love to see him come back, but hey, man, if he goes, there will be no bad blood animosity. I totally get it.
Right, of course. But you got to think about too. I mean, what you're going into.
Totally.
The NBA has almost become like nightly Harlem Globetrotters. Okay. You got to do that for 82 games. And of course, now nobody does that anymore because everybody takes 20 games off for this injury and that injury. But it is a job,
Yeah.
And now he won't have to go, a lot of these kids who make the decision, all right, like Rasheer Fleming has this coming up. You might spend 50 games next year in the G League. With with like 1,000 people in the stands and no media, barely any media coverage. And you really, and if you get one of those contracts, your money could range anywhere depending on whether you get called up, whether you get a two-way, whether depending on how many games you play with the NBA team. But G League salaries basically range between $50,000 and $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And you're just, going from one small city to the next. Nobody was watching, nobody cares. Do you really want to leave, where you're the star on campus and getting paid?
Yeah,
and being allowed to live a college life, and you only have to play 30 games or so a year. You play twice a week. I don't know. I just and you get to be with all your friends. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't
when
think
you
you
when
can't put
you
a price on that.
when
You
you move
cannot
up,
put a price on that.
right, and when you move up to the NBA, you're not going to be with a bunch of people your age anymore. You know, maybe there's going to be one or two, and then if you go to the G League, there's going to be more your age, but you're not going to know who the hell they are. You know, um, and you can't really get too attached to them because you never know where they're
Yeah.
going to be next week. Um, I don't know. I think he's definitely gone if he wins the national championship. That's a no brainer.
Oh yeah, if he wins a natty, he's gone.
But I certainly, as you know, if I was his father or whatever, I mean, I wouldn't push him to do one thing or the other, but I certainly would lay it out and say, you know, there's a lot of pluses to college right now, and I'm not so sure why you would be in a hurry. You know, Corey Alexander, all he's thinking about is the money, and the money's going to be there next year.
Yeah, he's like I said. I think Coop is a bulletproof prospect. That dude is creme de la creme. You know, I don't know. I just think that like you said, man, like let college basketball fans have something. Let us have it. Let it even if they're joking with one another. Like,
Well,
hey
but I'm
man,
more concerned about him. I'm more concerned about him with he's 18 years old and he has all these older people around who really don't give a damn about him, you know,
yeah,
beside, you know, his close circle. But people like Corey Alexander have nothing to do with him. But he hears all this stuff. Oh, he'd be an idiot if he didn't go, you know? And that's why I'm saying that's what bothered me. You
no,
know,
for sure.
shut the fuck up.
Or
You know,
I mean, but and I just laugh because I'm like, would he be an idiot if he wins a national title, came back and won two, and then was the first overall pick in 2 years at 19 instead of 18?
right,
No, he'd be a legend.
right,
He'd be a legend at that point, and he'd still be 19 years old. So,
right.
we'll see how it plays out. But, on
All
a
right.
basketball note, Kid has been playing phenomenal, and it's actually really fun having a player of the year conversation after the last couple of years just being so ED centric. Like, we actually have a legitimate discussion. So,
Right.
it's been fun.
Exactly. All right. My ranting is not over. It is not over, Drew. And the reason why I'm doing this is because we've been interviewing a lot of mid-major guys, and we're going to interview more mid-major guys today. And it always comes back to, especially with the Bennett Sturts conversation. By the way, named Missouri Valley Conference
Yep.
Player of the Year, hands down, yesterday. But it always, you know, we've talked a lot about the system of bracketology, and so we were hoping to have Mike DeCourcy or Joe Lenardi on the show, and it didn't happen. But we're hoping to actually have this discussion with them
Yeah.
in more detail down the road. But I just want to point out to people, you know, if Drake or a team like Drake, Indiana State last year, gets left out, the system to me has become too much based on the numbers. And as a former computer programmer, I could tell you that the system is flawed. If the system wasn't flawed, we could, you know, we could make a lot of money betting. We could predict the national championship easily. You know, we could pick the bracket with no mistakes if the system if
Right.
computers weren't flawed. And here's the problem. Just think about this. You know, how do they work these computer programs? How do they work? At
Yeah.
the beginning of the season, you have two choices if you're a coder, okay, to make these ranking systems. Because basically they look at how most of them work is they look at what should have happened and what
Yeah.
did happen, and then they adjust. So, you know,
Yeah.
teams are moving up and down based on what we thought and what the computer thought and what
Right.
happened. Now, at the beginning of the season, where do you start that? Do you start it with everybody being equal? Are all teams equal, and then you go from there? Well,
No, of course.
you can't really do that because we know automatically that there are good teams and there are bad teams,
Yep.
right? So then if you come up, do you use last year's rankings? Do you start from that point? Well, you can't start from that point, especially now in college basketball. Teams
Yeah.
look totally different from one year to the next. What sense would that make to start
Yep.
from where they finished last season? So then what do you do? The only thing you can do is kind of come up with some system that roughly estimates where these teams should be, where some human or humans think that the teams should be.
Yep.
So, and kind of like the AP preseason poll that put Kansas number one. Hello, how'd that work out? So these systems from the start, no matter how you design them, are flawed. And here's another thing. I really think that the committee has done this because A, it's easier, less work,
Right.
but more importantly, criticism. Have you noticed how criticism of the selection process is kind of, at least in the major media and even maybe among fans, has kind of quieted over the last few years? Why?
Totally.
Because the committee gets up there after they make the selections and they get interviewed and they say, well, this guy had, this team had 55 quad one wins and, and the other team only had 42. And I'm exaggerating, obviously, but, that's what it comes down to. Which leads me to my next point. The quad system is ridiculous. It's such a childlike solution. You draw a line, like if you
Four
lose
boxes.
if you lose on the road to if you win on the road against a top 75 team, that's a quad one win. All right. And then I think if you're home, it has to be, I think, a top 50 team or a top 25 team. No, top 50, I think.
On the road?
On the road it's
At home?
75, but then it gets smaller if you win at home.
So at home, it's 1 to 30.
Okay.
On a neutral, it's 1 to 50. On the road, it's 1 to 75 for a quad one. That's for a quad one.
All right. So let's say you're Drake or St. Joe's, and you have road victories over team number 76 and 81. They go down as quad two victories. But if you beat team 73, that's a quad one. Are you kidding me?
No, I agree. This is actually something that I've battled with because as a Gonzaga fan, and I think there's other teams that deal with this, like a San Diego State, less so because the Mountain West is better. But, as a Gonzaga fan, I sit there and go like, for years they've had to schedule the way they schedule non-conference because everyone just knew the WCC wasn't very good. And everyone just knew that. Like, you can't walk into March and go, my resume is 2 wins over Pepperdine, Pacific, Portland, San Diego, and go compare that to a Virginia team out of the ACC or an Ohio State team out of the Big Ten. But now what it's done is, like, personally, having seen these teams play, I think a USF and Santa Clara they're okay teams. But there's a reason why combined they've been to one tournament since like the 90s. The fact that those are quad one wins and, being evaluated in a bubble, the same as, say, Auburn having to go beat, I don't know, Texas A&M, to me is not fair, to be quite honest. It's not fair, and it's almost like as a Gonzaga fan, I've been like, why do we schedule the way we schedule now? Let's just do what St. Mary's does, schedule what they schedule. If we schedule their schedule, we'd have 0 losses in non-conference. We'd have 4 in conference play.
Exactly.
No, I'm not even, and like people will say your point. I go, their best 3 games were not, or their best 4 games were Nebraska, who's Arizona State, who Gonzaga did beat, and Boise, who's gotten hot recently, but they're very much so on the bubble, and Utah State, who started very strong, have definitely cooled. Gonzaga would win all 4 of those games. They'd have 4 losses, and they'd probably still be ranked, if we're being honest. Like, and so it's just, to me, it's like, it's almost like you can game the system. And I understand that it's a convenient metric, but it's like, I just, in a world where I can sit there and say that USF is a quad one win, and I know that now there's like a deeper, now there's quad 1A wins. I don't know if you've seen that, where it's like,
oh my God.
It's like, if you beat, like, it's kind of like if you beat a team that everybody kind of universally admits is good, it's like a quad 1A. So like if Auburn beats Florida.
Is that an official stat?
I believe on all the bracketology sites that I see, that is something that I start seeing people now. It's a Q1A. It's like an even higher level of a quad one win. So I don't know what the exact metric they're using there is. I don't know if that's like 1 to 25 because that'd be like the AP 25. I don't know what that exactly is, but I understand trying to get systems and trying to make it as precise as possible. And I understand that you're always going to have teams get left out because you only take 64. You have bid stealers, you have auto qualifiers. Like, I understand that, like, it's going to happen. But I do think that, like, it allows for the system to be quite honest by some of these teams that are more maybe here and they're not up here and they don't have to go on a Cinderella run down here, but they're just kind of in the middle to game the system and, like, go secure, to walk and go, we have 8 quad one wins. And you're like, okay, 4 of those are against San Francisco, Santa Clara, and one of them is against Nebraska in November, which has fluctuated all year long to a 1-2, and since it changes, like
Right.
I don't know. I to me,
Here's the thing. To back up your point, USF has played a tougher schedule than St. Mary's this year.
100%. They
maybe
played
2 years in a row.
Clemson
Maybe 2 years in a row they have.
for sure. And I can't, and I get flack because I always get that you're just a Gonzaga fan and you're butthurt. First off, yeah, I am butthurt. Okay, my team should be winning those games. Not happy. But secondly, don't sit there and tell me that a team that is now 21 in the nation on the AP poll, which look, we all know means nothing. It means nothing. The AP poll means that much. Like you said, Kansas was the preseason #1. It means that much. But like they have 0 ranked wins. Their best wins are over a Gonzaga team that has potentially been the most disappointing Gonzaga team in 15 years. Still quality wins based on the metrics and the net and all that stuff for sure. But like I do think there's a level of the eye test where it's like somebody told me that they are tied with Auburn for the most wins in the country. There's a reason why one is the #1 overall team in the country and one is like fluctuating between a 5 and 7 seed because they're not all created equal. And I'm like, I agree with that point. But the fact that teams can kind of game the system and know that if I can pencil in a couple easy quad one wins that kind of barely count as quad one wins, like to me, it's just kind of frustrating. And it's not just St. Mary's. It's not point. There's a lot of teams I think kind of are able to go, look at this. This is what I have. And it's like, really? I've watched you all year. You're not very good, but because you beat 2 other middling teams that are like you said, number 74 in the nation, I'm supposed to sit there and take that as like a quad one. That's equal to beating Florida at Florida. Right. It's not.
Here's the thing. I think the quad system makes it great for the media.
Yes, I agree
talk about it. But if the guys in the decision room are using those numbers as definitives, that is idiotic.
Yeah, that I agree with. And I don't know.
The thing, first of all, I am not against using the computers. Okay. But totally. basically, I don't want to draw some, arbitrary line somewhere and distinguish between team 75 and 76 like there's some huge difference between them, because there's not. The difference between team 70 and team 80 is minuscule.
I don't think there is one. I don't think there's one at all.
If you actually look at like the betting systems, that use the computers, like the rating of team 70 might be like 80.1, and the rating for team 80 might be like 79.8. There might be like a 0.3 difference.
I think you can make that statement in even more grand schemes. I don't think there's huge differences between team I don't think there's big differences if you look at like Ken Palm and the net ratings between teams 50 and 75. I think a lot of that is just skewed to what conference you're in.
Right.
I think like you can have a really and again, and I'm using my personal experience as somebody who's obviously a fan of a team that is kind of that's in a weird spot where they operate up here, but they're in a conference that's here. It's like, I can admit that Gonzaga is number 10 in the net right now. And they might be number 8. They actually might be number 8.
Yeah, I think they are.
There have been moments where that has looked true, but there's also been moments where they've been horrible. So I'm like, I can be an objective fan.
Yeah, I don't think many people are penciling Gonzaga in their Elite 8 right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that I know they are not the 8th best team in the country. But I know for a fact that because since that second St. Mary's loss, they've been buzzsawing people by 20 to 40. They're flying up the rating, which two things can be true. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're starting to round into form. They look like they might be peaking in March. We'll have to see. The games have to be played. Vegas will tell us what we need to know, and we'll get into that later. But also, come on. People are like, I'm sorry. St. Mary's, I've seen it with my own eyes for years. they're not the elite defense I think everyone thinks that they are. When I sit there and
No,
have to, like,
no. They just
they slow games down,
yeah, slog
and
everything
they
down.
do what they're supposed to do, which is 40 bomb Portland and hold Portland to 50 points. Which, newsflash, is not that means nothing. 2 years ago, Sonoma State almost beat San Diego, mind you. Like, it's not that impressive, but it looks great for the ratings. And people are going to say, again, you can call me a hater if you want, but the thing with college basketball, which I really do enjoy, is eye test is very telling.
Yeah,
Eye test is very telling. You cannot turn on a St. John's game and watch them play defense and then turn on a St. Mary's game or a San Diego State, who's normally really good defensively, but they're not the same team this year, and just go up, turn those games on and turn on a St. John's or a Houston game and go, oh, yeah, those four teams are all top 10 defenses. No way in hell.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no way in hell. There are teams that are in, like you said, there are teams that are probably in the 40s that are really good, but they're struggling in quotation marks because they're just in a tough conference. Like, you're going to tell me that Vanderbilt's not good because they're not an AP team and their quad record is probably a bit skewed because they have to go be sacrificial lambs to Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky. So I agree with this as somebody who's a mid-major guy with the Mountain West and the WCC being like my conferences that I grew up being really invested in. This system is both a double-edged sword of benefit, but I think it's also part of the reason why, like, when the Mountain West underperforms in March every year, people get so, like, freaked out. It's like, well, because their quad one wins are not the same as the quad one wins from the Power Five conferences.
Right.
Beating Utah State
And those teams traditionally, like St. Mary's, do not schedule tough.
And they implode in March every year.
Nobody in the Mountain West really challenges themselves.
I would say that San Diego State is the only one.
Yeah,
and I will give credit.
Yes,
Boise State has done a pretty. Boise State will, like, they will go play like some other top mid. Like, they played USF at USF. They played St. Mary's. So, like, I will say San Diego State schedules on a national level, and I think Boise does a pretty good job over the last couple of years of, like, kind of knowing their lane. Like, okay, yeah, we're probably not going to go play Gonzaga at Gonzaga and then Kentucky at Kentucky, but we'll play USF. We'll play St. Mary's. We'll play the other.
San Diego State at Maui this year too?
No, last year. Last year they were there. They played Arizona, Creighton. They played Houston last year, I think. They played Gonzaga 2 years in a row. So I tip the cap to San Diego State. I'm also a big fan of theirs. But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a system I understand having it, but I do think it's a little bit flawed. I mean, like I said, there's a reason why those programs historically implode in March. St. Mary's is going to be a 5 seed probably 4 years in a row, and they've been to one Sweet 16 in 15 years. That tells, as a basketball guy, I don't care what the numbers tell me. That tells me what I need to know.
I want to kind of flip things around because we've been talking about how you can kind of skew your schedule to kind of bolster it up with this quad system. But at the same time, one of my biggest gripes about the system right now is that you can go one of two ways with counting victories, like good victories versus bad victories. You can do what the NCAA does, which is basically keep on reclassifying. So what was called a quad win in November or quad one win in November can now be considered a quad 3 win in March, depending on what that team's done.
Yeah.
The problem I have with that is, and I wouldn't do it this way. I really wouldn't. What I would do is if you they do this when they count top 25 wins. Okay.
Yeah.
So what they say is if you beat a top 25 win means you beat a top 25 team at that time.
At that time. Yep.
And to me, I really think moving these teams around and so a quad one could turn into a quad 2. To me, that's kind of ridiculous. And the reason is because everything is in flux.
Yes.
Injuries happen, roster changes, player development. How many teams this year have we seen get better? You know, that they were a new bunch of guys and now they're finally gelling.
Do you think anybody wants to play BYU right now?
Right, exactly.
Do you think anybody in the country, anybody wants to? They've won 7 in a row. They've looked awesome. Do you think anybody wants to play that team right now?
Right. I mean,
Hell no.
they embarrassed Iowa State at Iowa State.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but early they started off pretty hot. They struggled in the middle,
Well,
and now they're
they
hot
started
again.
off really hot because they played one of the unbelievably easiest schedules I've ever
For sure,
seen.
but like they were rolling, and
Right.
I think people's expectations took off. They struggled as they got more into the meat of their schedule, but
Right.
now they're figuring it out and they're doing it against top teams. I don't want to see that team.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. Somebody's going to say, well, you know, Drake beat Miami and we thought Miami was good, but now we know they're not. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah, that's going to happen in what I'm suggesting. But then you have the other teams, you know, I'm trying to think of an injury that's really, Kentucky. Kentucky started the season red hot. Okay. And injuries just, you know, creep up to them, and they've lost games recently that we didn't think that they would lose, that they wouldn't have lost if they were at full strength.
Yep.
You know, there's no way they would have lost that game to Texas, for example, where they fell apart in the last 3 minutes of the game. There's no way if they had everybody healthy. So yeah, and here's the real thing that, you know, as a mid-major, your fate is really determined in November, in December, when nobody's watching, only really college basketball. Yeah. Everybody's watching football, but you and I are watching basketball. But that's when your fate is sealed. And it's not just based on what you do in November and December. It's what everybody else in your conference does in November and December. Those actually might be the most important games that you play, and nobody's really paying attention.
I think that's the A10. I think that put a big circle on Dayton's back because Dayton started off playing really good basketball, and you know, they've rallied a bit, but it's like that. Yeah, I agree. It's like if you don't have that like kind of guaranteed log of the WCC, like I said, if you don't have that guaranteed log in your back pocket of really good wins early, your margin for error goes like that because you know Memphis is another one, and Memphis is one where I think it's more on Memphis as the conference, but it's like everybody said it. They had to play that way because that conference sucks.
Right.
And so it's like if they don't play that schedule, they would have had to be, they couldn't have a loss.
I'm going to tell you something about Dayton. And this is a conference we're going to talk about in a second. But Dayton, you're exactly right. That's a perfect example of how you could be screwed by your own conference. They are arguably better now with Latong playing at center. Yep. They now have a legitimate 7-footer who can also stretch the floor, and he's a freshman who was hardly playing in the beginning of the year, and now he's playing a lot. But now they bring Zed Key off the bench.
Yep.
Dayton is bringing Zed Key, an Ohio State star, a former Ohio State star. You know, and lastly, you know, with these teams that are 6-12 in conference, you know, specifically like the SEC, you know, maybe the Big 10, maybe the Big 12, you know, if you're like 6-12 in conference, you should not be in the discussion to get in the NCAA tournament. Now, here's what, you know, some people like DeCourcy would say, well, Texas is one of the best, you know, 64 teams in the country, or 68 teams in the country. Yeah, I get that. But they've also they've won 33% of their games in conference. There is no doubt in my mind that Texas is not the best team in the country and doesn't deserve to be in the contention to be the best team to fight for the national title. We have already seen that Texas is not even close to their best team in their conference. Drake, on the other hand, are you telling me that you can't see a path for Drake to get to the Final Four? National championship might be a stretch, but if Drake gets in, would you be shocked? I mean, is that any more shocking than Loyola Chicago or George Mason or
They're playing good ball. I mean, I look at it as I could definitely see that team getting to the second weekend, and that would be a mid-major I'd want no part of.
let
I'd
me
want
ask you
no
this.
part of that
Let me
team.
turn this question around because we also saw Butler do this before they were, in the Big East.
Yeah.
If if Texas gets in and won the national championship, if they won 6 games in a row, would you think they're the best team in the country?
No.
If Drake at 27-3 got into the tournament, let's say they win their conference tournament, so that would boost their record up to like 30-3. If they got into the championship and ran the table, you probably wouldn't say they're the best team in the country, but you might think about it.
It would be it'd be like one of the best mind exercises I think college basketball would have ever given us. The day that a team like a Drake or Loyola Chicago or Butler at that time wins a natty is the day that college basketball has a very interesting discussion. But I just think like it sucks because like look, Indiana State should have got in last year and they validated that going all the way to the NIT championship.
Right.
Like that Indiana State team very confidently can say like that was a Sweet 16 caliber squad for sure.
Right.
Like win the whole thing, probably not, but they said fine, we'll go to NIT, did what they do there, and that was a great game against Cincinnati, by the way.
No, it
That
was
was a
Seton
great
Hall.
game.
Seton Hall.
Oh, sorry, Seton Hall. You're right. They had Seton Hall. Um, so who also should have gotten in? Funny enough, the two
No,
teams
no,
that
no, no,
should
no, no. Seton Hall. I don't think Seton Hall should have got in last year. I
last year.
thought St. John's should have gotten in.
St.
Sure.
I might be mixing up schedules
Yeah,
here. Saint,
you're
yeah,
mixing up. St.
yeah,
John's was
Big East
better.
schedules.
Was better in the Big East,
Yes,
and yes,
yes,
Seton Hall
yes.
was definitely an NIT team.
NIT team. But regardless of the point, I don't. This system is an interesting one. I get having it, and I do think it does kind of quell people because if I can just show you numbers and go look, we all have there's probably 30 teams in the country that we're all pretty confident like those are March Madness caliber teams. Probably even 40, that we're like, yeah, these teams going, I don't really have an issue. But like those last couple spots, man, I think to be able to just go, hey, look, the numbers said this. It does make life easier, which I do get, I guess.
Yeah, my main question to Lenardi or DeCourcy, if we get one of them on the show, is going to be how much is the eye test coming into play? How much are humans actually looking at these teams
Right.
and looking at the scenarios? Because, we used to count the last 10 games used to be weighted heavier.
As
And
they
they
should
got
be.
rid of that. And now they say every game's equal, which to me is so silly because
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
teams evolve in so many different ways, from injuries to just player development to team cohesion. They just change so much from the beginning of the season. And a win in November is not the same as a win in February or March. And that I just don't understand.
Totally.
So I'm curious, like, how much do humans actually make decisions at this point, or does it all come down to numbers? And if it all comes down to numbers, it's, hell, why do we even play the tournament? Why we just have the computer tell us who the best team is?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the A10 because we have two A10 guests on today. We have Enoch Cheeks, the senior guard from Dayton, who is probably in line to be all defense in the A10 and maybe even make all conference. And arguably the most valuable player on Dayton this year. We also have Rasheer Fleming, who is a first round draft pick, assessed by most. I personally have him on the edge of the first round, probably out right now, but it's close, and I still have a lot more evaluating to do. It's kind of fun. Right now, I'm still kind of like in the grouping stage, and then you get down to the fine tuning later on. But what I want to say is, I actually talked to both of these guys a few days ago, and they've each played a game since, maybe two, maybe two. But yeah, it was I interviewed them 5 days ago, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Um, but basically, before we got in, I just wanted to kind of get you. I know you've always we've always talked about Dayton a lot. We've had a lot of
Yeah.
Dayton guests on the show, and the interesting thing I find, if you look at the standings in the A10, and I'll just quickly go down them. VCU has a one-game lead over George Mason,
Yeah.
which is the surprise team at the top. Then Dayton is 4 games behind, tied with Loyola, Chicago, and
St.
St.
Joe's, right?
Joe's. And
Yeah.
then comes St. Louis. Now, St. Louis didn't have Robbie Avila for I think about a third of the season.
He
And
missed.
I've
Yeah, he missed.
seen Robbie play a couple times this year, and he just doesn't look quite the same. I don't know what injury he had, but he doesn't look the same. Now, I don't know if it's the jump up in competition or he just, he's not quite in the shape that he was. I mean, he's playing well, but he's
Yeah.
just not dominating like he did last year.
Yeah. No, he.
So,
I remember he got. I watched the first game. The first game of this year that I watched was the opening game was them versus Santa Clara, and he got hurt in that game. He blew his ankle pretty bad in that game,
right.
and I don't know if that's probably just lingered, and the injuries are just kind of I feel like lingered all year for him. And I will say, and I do think the jump up in competition has. I think it'd be unfair to the A10 to say like, oh, we expected, that he's playing better teams and they've probably, he's not the best kept secret anymore, or
Right.
the worst kept secret in college basketball. Like everyone knows,
Right.
What to expect now. So,
Here's the thing. We've seen the A10 tournaments usually pretty unpredictable.
very unpredictable.
And I even when I look at the bottom of the standings, Rhode Island at 6-11 or St. Bonaventure at 8-9, I wouldn't be shocked to see them, be playing in the
For
final
sure.
game on Selection Sunday to get into the tournament.
The Bonnies are 20-10. Like they're a 20-win team for the year.
Right.
So,
And GW's got talent too.
Yep.
We interviewed one of their Darren Buchanan before the season. But St. Louis is better than their record for sure because they played so long without Robbie Avila. St. Joe's beat Texas Tech, almost beat Texas. I saw those games. I was covering those games in Brooklyn. We know Dayton. Dayton's got a number of big wins on the year. VCU was my pick to win it in the preseason, and they're 25-5. And again, if somebody like George Mason to me is a total shocker. I've even seen them play. And I'm not really impressed with this team.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think I've seen them play once, and like I look at the resume, and it's like, funny enough, I feel like they did beat James Madison, but at James Madison that was very early in the year. But like anytime that they played like upper echelon competition, it did not go well for them. Marquette blew them off the floor, Duke blew them off the floor. But in A10 play, they've got what, 3 losses? Was it 3?
Yeah, 14-3, 23-7 overall. Last time though, they just faced VCU for first place, and VCU handled them.
That's the game that I saw. They handled them.
Here's my concern. Let's say a team like St. Joe's or Dayton wins the tournament, and they're probably at this point going to have to win the tournament to get in.
For sure.
I've seen St. Joe's a lot this year. I've seen Dayton a lot this year, and I know both of those teams can beat most power conference teams. Like they can beat Duke and Auburn, probably not, but pretty much anybody else, VCU though could get squeezed out at 25-5, and really they fall in that Drake range for me, Drake category. Totally. I think right now though, the quote unquote experts have VCU in no matter what?
I would be surprised by that just because, again, like all of their success has come in the A10. They don't have any, they don't have a single, they beat Colorado State. They did beat Colorado, but outside of that, they don't have like a single quality win in non-conference. So it's like, again, it boils down to how much stock do you put into them, you know. And I think I think the Dayton game tonight for both teams is incredibly important.
Right.
I think if Dayton wins, because the bubble's just so weak, I think this if they beat VCU, that might actually be enough to like kind of lock them in. And if VCU wins, I think the winner of this game is going to feel really good about an auto qualifier, and I think the loser's sweating pretty heavy. Dayton can at least back pocket. They have a win over Marquette. They have a win over UConn. You know, from an eye test standpoint, they were obviously very, very competitive back. I mean, that was way back when in the Maui. But I think whoever wins this game is probably breathing pretty easy. And whoever loses, like if Dayton loses, it might be we have to win the whole thing. Or at a minimum, get to the conference championship game. And I think VCU, same thing. It's like we have to get there at least because, again, I don't know how much you can say. Like if you're going in and saying your best wins are, you know, Dayton and St. Joe's, that could, while they're good, is it enough to move the scale? You know, like we said, you get so heavily weighed on what you did in the non-con, and it's like you played New Mexico but lost. You played Nevada but lost. I mean, you have a loss to Seton Hall, which is a bad one. So yeah, I think both teams are in very much so like we win. I don't want to say winning in because you never know with mid-major conferences because you're always liable to get screwed in the mid-majors. But I think the winner feels pretty good. The loser is probably saying they're going, we have to go win 2 or 3 games in the conference tournament to even have a chance.
Right. All right. So basically, do you think this conference deserves 2 bids?
I want to say yes. I think some combination of VCU, St. Joe's, and Dayton should get in. Two of those 3.
Yeah.
I think
agree.
that
I agree. Assuming St. Joe's makes it far in the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm already pretty convinced on Dayton and VCU, and I saw
sure.
St. Joe's in person beat Texas Tech. I know what this team can do. Inconsistency has been what's plagued them.
For sure. Like this team was, I mean, again, didn't play they lost I remember that Utah game. They lost in overtime. They lost to Villanova. Then they got really hot and started rolling again. Not like they beat VCU. Again, not the toughest schedule. They did pick up a George Mason win, which part of the reason why I don't believe in George Mason. Like when they lose, they get handled. It feels like played really, but like they've lost 4 of their last 5. So it's like I think the margin for error is by far St. Joe. They have to make a run in their tournament. If they flame out, if they don't reach the championship game, if they lose at any point and that's before the championship game, they're out. And they might have to win out to make it anyways. Like I said, VCU and Dayton I feel pretty good about, particularly with that matchup tonight. But I do think this conference deserves 2.
Right. All right, so we'll roll those interviews with those A10 players right now. We'll start with Enoch Cheeks and then move to Rasheer Fleming. And I will tell you, Drew, spoiler alert, Rasheer Fleming basically makes a statement that I believe that he hasn't said in public before about his future.
Yeah.
Our first special guest today is Dayton senior guard Enoch Cheeks, who leads the Flyers in minutes per game this season. Enoch is averaging 13.1 points, 6.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists, and 1.9 steals per game. And the steals, by the way, is 4th in the A10. And he's shooting 48% from the floor, 36 from deep, 85 from the free throw line. He ranks 4th in the A10 with an offensive rating of 122.3 and 5th in the conference for plus minus with a plus minus of 7. Welcome to the show, Enoch. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. It's too early for something to have gone wrong.
Right.
So, officially, Posh Alexander is the OG on your team, but he's only got you by a few days. He's only got,
Yeah.
it's like 2 weeks. So who is really the OG?
To be honest, the real OG, but everybody in the team calls Zed Key the oldest, even though he's not even the oldest. They just says Zed's the oldest for real. But um I would say, like, shoot, we don't even notice age really, honestly. Like, we're all relatively, like, all act the same. So it's nothing, it's not nothing to that really.
Okay. And
Yeah.
do you ever get teased much by opponents or fans? Because you're a real veteran team, with the exception of maybe one guy.
Yeah. No, not really. Not really. I haven't heard anything as far as any heckling from fans or anything like that. It's kind of new age of basketball, really. So
Right.
they have
Right.
every team we play, they have guys damn near the same age as us. So you
Right.
already know.
So it's not like BYU where they come up to players and say, "Hey, how the grandkids doing?"
It's nothing like that. Yeah.
I swear, half of those guys at BYU are already married and have kids.
I seen that on Twitter.
So, all right. So, by the way, I love BYU. How would you describe the Flyer season so far?
I'll describe it as, it's good. It's good. It's a lot of ups and downs, but I wouldn't say we're having a terrible season. We definitely, um, we're not where we want to be right now, but we're still in position to play for our goal, play or reach our goals, which is March Madness. So we're happy about that. We're just taking one game at a time right now.
Right, right. And up and down was the word that first came to my mind. The team was considered before the season. Team was considered one of the favorites to win the A10 along with VCU. You were considered a likely NCAA tournament team. The start of the season included a win over Northwestern when that team was totally healthy, I believe. And then you go to Maui, you nearly beat UNC, you nearly beat Iowa State, and then you thump UConn. Soon
Mhm.
after that, you beat Marquette and UNLV. At that point, everything's looking great, right?
Yeah. Yeah, everything's looking pretty solid. Like I'm saying, like we're in control of our path and our goals right there. So yeah, we was definitely feeling good to go into the conference play.
Right. And then in conference play, things get dicey. And I'm going to use the air quotes here, but you suffered bad losses to GW, UMass, St. Bonnie's, and now the team sits at 19-9, 2-3 versus ranked teams, tied in fourth in the conference. But most importantly, air quotes again, the experts are saying, you guys, the only way you're going to make the big dance is by winning the tourney. Having said all that, what do you think went wrong in conference play?
Um, we wasn't totally focused on I think we lost way of some of our principles. Teams teams that beat us, they got hot from the 3-point line. It's really hard to stop a team when they're really shooting really good at 3-point line. But like yeah, like I said, we just kind of let our defensive principles slip a little bit, so and it's basketball at the end of the day, anybody's able to beat anybody on any given day. So it's just the beauty of the sport, but the chips just happen to fall on their side of those games. So
Right, right. And it's not like, GW or UMass or St. Bonnie's are totally void of talent. They're solid
yeah,
teams.
yeah,
But, if you don't follow the A10, you might not know that.
yeah.
So what's your opinion of the March Madness selection process? Do you think it's fair to teams that play in a conference like the A10?
You think it's fair to? Do I think it's fair to teams who play in
And
the
there
A10?
are players that are like in the Missouri Valley and the A10 and the American Athletic and conferences like that. Do you think it's fair?
It's most definitely not fair because there's definitely some good teams in those conference. Yeah, that's a short answer. It's definitely not fair because I feel like there's talented teams all through. all through D1, whether it's top to the bottom. And like I said, it's basketball. Anybody could be anybody on any given day. And March Madness is a great example of that. People look at it and say it's upset all the time, but when I look at it, I feel like, shoot, we're all Division I athletes, and we're all capable of beating any team on any given day. That's how I feel like, and that's how I look at it. So,
To me, it's a little more than that. And what I don't like about it is, and this really shouldn't apply so much to your team, because your team played a hard schedule. You beat some really good teams. You also were very close to beating some other really good teams. But you get trapped by what everyone else in your conference did in out of conference play. So, for example, St. Louis, who we thought would be toward the top, and they're kind of more in the middle of the pack because their best player didn't play for like the first 12 games. So St. Louis lost a lot of games they could have won, right?
True.
But that hurts you. What GW did out of conference hurts you. What UMass did out of conference hurts you. I think they really need to slip away from the computers a little bit and have a committee of people like me who watch basketball in all levels of basketball, not just the SEC or not just the ACC, who watch all the conferences, and that's their job. That's their job, like 5 to 7 guys in different parts of the country, and they just watch basketball. You can use the computers, but the problem is with the computers is it basically locks you in, and you can't get out of that trap.
Yeah, I like that. I like that point of view right there. That's definitely some facts right there. So
yeah. So bear with me by this, and I don't know. And my question is going to be: have you and the guys and you and the coaches talked about this? But I'm thinking, if you sweep your last 3 regular season games, which includes the season finale versus VCU, you could be back on the bubble. And if you make it all the way to the championship game, I would think you might have a good shot at being an at-large bid, even without winning the tourney. But have you guys talked about scenarios like that?
no, again, like we try to take one game at a time. I didn't even like I completely thought we have to win the championship. Like, I'm not a guy who looks too deep into, all the analytics and things like that. I just, go out and play and just play my hardest each and every single game and try to rack as much wins as we can. So, but yeah, that's interesting. We did. I don't know. Coach Anthony Grant hasn't said anything about that. It's just taking one game at a time,
Right.
and trying to rack wins.
Right. But the thing of it is VCU is really high right now in the computer rankings. They're top 30. So that victory might just get you, back there on the bubble. And then if you could win, a few games in the 8-10 tourney, even without winning the championship, I'm thinking, maybe they have a shot that way. I just hate to see a good team like yourself have only one option to get in. It's just, I don't know. Upsets me if you didn't notice.
No, for sure.
All right. So a couple of things unexpected happened this season, and this is in my opinion, but I'm going to ask you about them and get your opinion. I think one was good, one was not so good. The bad one would be Posh, who I predicted would be Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, has really struggled this season. And then we have Emil Latong, the freshman center, who has played much more than I expected for sure. So has Posh mostly struggled this season due to health issues or something else? And what are your thoughts on Latong?
I know Pasha is probably not having the season he would have thought he should be having, but like I said, that could be due to injury. I think he was playing good. He does what he needs to do every single time he steps on the court for us. But again, all I can say is that he's a great teammate. He comes out like whatever he's playing his best or not playing so well, he's always a great teammate. He's always, giving 100% on the bench or even on the court, things like that. So that's all you can ever ask for him, just being a good teammate every single time you step on the court.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
I have total respect for Posh. I mean, I picked him for Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, and I thought there was a time where he missed some games, and I wasn't sure if it was the flu or a lot of people were getting sick this year, or if he had an injury. I'm just, I thought the pairing of you two at guard was going to make life miserable for teams on the perimeter, because to me, you and Posh, there's a lot of similarities in your games. And you said, when your struggles, it was kind of more, defense more than anything else. And I would agree with you. So that's why I asked the question. It's not, I have all the respect in the world for Posh. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Why isn't he playing so well?
Yeah, but as far as Amael, everybody's saying that he's kind of like the surprise guy, but we've seen Amael since the summer, and we already knew he was going to be good. Like, he has amazing passing skills. He's tall enough to, grab rebounds and be a threat on defense and things like that. So it's just him being his ability to, be a sponge and just learn as quickly as he can. And, we're just grateful for how he just hopped in and just helped us right away in crucial adjustments. So.
Right. And he's got a nice stroke.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to shoot it.
And he's what? He's close to 7 feet. Is he 7 feet?
Yeah, he's 7 feet. He's 7 feet for sure.
And he blocks shots. So I see a lot of potential there. Fans should be very excited. Now let's talk about you. You're having an all conference like season, and if you don't make the all conference team, there's something wrong. I'm telling you, there's something wrong. I mean, you've always been a great defender, but your offensive game, to me, has gone to the next level. How would you describe your development this season?
I'm happy about it. Just staying myself and locking myself inside the gym, just trying to make sure every single day counts. That's kind of been my motto since I got into college basketball. But yeah, just having more opportunity, playing free, playing with more confidence and things like that. Knowing my teammates is just gonna put me in situations to, play my game. Coach is gonna put me in situations to play my game and just going in there and just playing basketball. So I'm just having a good season,
Right. I recently rewatched the UConn game, and you in that game were just terrific. You were scoring in all kinds of ways. Sometimes catch a three in the corner. Sometimes you were catching, off a screen while still on the move, putting it up, dropping it in. Step back three, Euro step for a layup. I mean, and what I really liked was the ability to pull up. Especially coming off screens. I think that's a skill that not everybody can do, and it's underrated. So were they and you're also like shooting an all-time, I believe it's an all-time high for threes. Is that something you worked on, you focused on in the off season?
Like I said, it's not something I focus on. It's something that I've been adding all those skills to my game. Really, it was just been like having more opportunity. Like I think I had the skills to do it, last year, and I had the skills to do it the year before. I did it. Actually, I did do it the year before when I was at my old school. So it's just just waiting my turn and having the opportunity to showcase those skills and just being able to showcase it when the time was right, and that was a perfect time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, you're one of a handful of guards in the country who are probably 6'4" or less and just can be dominant on the boards. What do you attribute that to?
I just contributed to just trying to make plays. Like I figure if I could get the rebound, the push on the break, that's more opportunity to, put on the defense or just to make plays for the team or for myself. So, just and we're kind of, I won't say we're undersized, but rebounds and things like that kind of been a little bit of our weaknesses, one of our weaknesses. So, just trying to help out on the glass as much as I can, and it really helps our team, especially if I'm the one who's pushing the break and able to kick ahead to Vaughn or Mally to get them, easy lays and things like that to get them going. So yeah, that's what strive for me to, just go out there and grab the boards and battle with the bigs, man. So.
So what do you think, where do you see potential in your game for even further growth down the road?
Further growth? I think I can work on everything again. Like I definitely could have my handle sharper, work on my handle, things like that. At the next level, I'm probably gonna be more of a 2-1 combo guard, things like that. So, just more pick and roll stuff and just seeing things like that. I would say again, I could definitely be a better shooter. Strive for in the 42% for three, things like that. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, and I guess that was my next question. Yeah, I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but your college career is going to be over by the time your birthday hits.
Yeah.
And even if you win the national championship, your career will be over. So, what's the plan next? You don't have to go into great detail. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what do you think is going to happen in April?
Hey, probably try to get down with an agent, see what's the best options for me. Obviously, I think I have a good chance of being a professional wherever it's going to be. And then from there, just, try to keep on playing as much as I can until the ball stops bouncing for me. So.
Right. There's no doubt you could play professionally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt.
Appreciate it.
Well, I mean, two-way guards that hustle and in the way your offensive game's developing, there's no. The one thing, and you said it, the one thing I could see where they may ask you to do, is play more on the ball. And right now you can't. You play on a team with three other point guards.
Yeah. I played a little bit in the March Madness or the last year, the last like 5-6 games, a little bit of that, but
Right.
not too much. Yeah, not too much. So.
Right. But I mean, I think at Robert Morris, you were close to your last year there. I think you were close to 4 assists a game, I believe.
Yeah. I started as a point guard, and then we had one of my main mans, what's his name? Michael Green, who's playing pro right now too. He would come in and he would be the main point guard, but I definitely play some guard position. So yeah.
Right now, I have you on our draft board listed as a combo guard because that's where I figure you're going to end up playing. A 3-and-D combo guard.
I like that.
So, last question. What are your? This is it. What are your fondest memories from your college years, and what will you miss the most?
Ooh, fondest memories from my college year. Definitely the Barcelona trip last year. Going overseas, that was amazing experience. The Maui trip, amazing experience. But I would say one of my most memorable games, Nevada game in the March Madness. People thought we was dead in the water and just having one of the biggest comebacks in March Madness history.
That was amazing.
That's always gonna hang with me. Another memorable game, I said VCU at home last year. That was pretty dope feeling. Winning that game. And then one thing I'll probably miss more than anything is just, the long flights with my guys, going out to eat, things like that. So yeah, that's a little rundown of everything, man.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure watching you, and the story's not over.
Yes, sir.
So I wish you and the team the best for the rest of the season. Hope to see you at March Madness. And if you find the time when you're going through the draft process, once you get things ironed out and you're going to combines and private workouts and all that good stuff, if you could check back in with us and talk with us and let us know how that's going, that would be awesome.
Of course, of course. I
All
got
right,
you.
Enoch,
All right.
appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Take care.
Our next special guest is St. Joe's junior forward Rasheer Fleming, a Player of the Year candidate in Atlantic 10 Conference. This season, Rasheer is averaging 15.3 points, 8.7 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 1.4 steals, and 1.5 blocks per game, while shooting 57% from the floor, 43 from deep, and 69 from the free throw line. In terms of metrics, he currently ranks in the top 10 of the conference for effective field goal percentage, rebound percentage, block percentage, offensive rating, defensive rating, player efficiency rating, win shares, and plus minus. That's an impressive list, sir. How you doing today, Rasheer?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I talked with Eric Reynolds last season while he was in a Philly barber shop.
Oh, you interviewed him while he's in the barbershop?
Yeah. So where are you this evening? In a hotel in the Bronx?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I think we might be staying in Jersey. Yeah, it's in Jersey.
Oh,
Yeah, like North Jersey.
okay. All right. Interesting. And you're a Jersey boy, right?
I'm from South Jersey.
Right. And I'm in North Jersey. But yeah. All right, great. So, I don't follow college or high school basketball very close. So I wanted to talk a bit about your high school days because I think it's an interesting story. You played for the nationally ranked, Camden High with players such as DJ Wagner and Aaron Bradshaw. But it's my understanding that you didn't get a lot of run in your last 2 seasons at Camden. Is that true?
Yeah, because when I went there my junior year, I transferred my junior year. I was at another school before, and then I transferred. So my junior year, it was a little less play time, and it was COVID year, so that was a pretty quick season.
Right.
And then my senior season, it was about the same amount of play time. Probably
Okay.
like a little bit more, but still not that much.
And how'd that affect your recruitment?
Well, I wasn't. It affected it because I wasn't playing a lot. Obviously, St. Joe's saw me in the warm up line, and they thought they seen enough to recruit me just from being in the warm up line. So that's pretty just a cool something to throw out there. I
Right.
I wasn't being recruited by many other schools.
Right. I could understand that just because from the sheer look of you, you for a young guy, you really do have, an NBA like body already.
Yeah.
What were your first discussions like with Coach Billy Lang?
Just the vision of where we want to be as a team, and where we can see ourselves being and where we should be, which is winning the A10 and going as far as winning the entire thing.
So, but I'm saying, what is it was about Billy Lang that attracted you to St. Joe's as opposed to another school?
Other schools, well, when I first got here, they made it seem like a second home for me. Like coming here was like literally like a second home. Like everybody was super welcoming. Um, I knew they were going to take care of me. My mom was comfortable sending me here. I was cool with going here. I knew they were going to develop me well, and basically that's the main thing. I feel like it was like a second home.
Right. When you play, because St. Joe's part of the Big Five, when you play those other Philly schools that didn't really pay much attention to you, do you have a little extra motivation?
Not really. I haven't even thought of it like that, but not really. I just go out there and compete just because I like to compete.
Right. Um, a little bit ironic. I mean, I don't want to put anyone down, but I mean, to be honest, I mean, DJ and Aaron, who were highly recruited, I would make the argument that you've had, to this point, they're still young, but to this point, you've been much more productive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we in different situations right now. Maybe stuff not working out at their schools, but they're definitely going to find their way too. But
Right.
I'm glad that things are like going the way they're going right now for me because I've been patient and basically like just seeing how everything's going. And I wish nothing but the best for all my teammates. They're all great people and great players.
Of course, of course. All right, so heading into the season, a number of evaluators, including myself, were very high on you. And most people, most college experts, I think, or at least people who knew the A10, thought that St. Joe's would be in the fight for the Atlantic 10 title. Now, fast forward, you're tied for fourth in the A10, can't win the regular season championship, but you could be as high as the third seed in the tournament. So from a team perspective, how would you describe the season so far?
I feel like there were certain expectations that I guess weren't met, but that I mean that stuff happens. Like we expect things and they don't happen. We all have expectations, but going throughout the season, I feel like we've been stepping it up each game, and we've just been coming much more competitive and united together as the seasons went on. So we're just continuing to go in the right direction with that, and we're going to see where it goes from there.
Right. I actually saw you play in person at the Legends Classic for 2 days in a row. First night you beat Texas Tech. Next night you played in the championship game. Tough loss to Texas, but you hung in there with them pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
Your other wins this season, you beat Villanova, beat Virginia Tech. I just recently rewatched that Virginia Tech game and Loyola Chicago. Who's also at the top of the conference in the A10. But you also had a few head scratchers, the Central Connecticut loss,
Yeah.
Duquesne, and George Mason most recently, we had a big lead. I think it was 16 points in the second half, and they ended up pulling it out at the very end. So would you say consistency has been an issue for this team? And if so, why is that?
Well, obviously, because we have new players as well, but um, I guess, but I wouldn't really say that. I would just say like having the same mindset we have like every game. Like I don't know if it's because like our minds are going like anywhere else because we're playing a certain team or not, which I don't think it is, but it could be. But like I said, right now, I feel like we're headed in the right direction in terms of like being the most competitive we can be against every team every night now, and just being super united and going as hard as we can against every team.
Right. And on that note, you've won 3 straight. And you have your remaining schedule, 3 winnable games, starting with Fordham tomorrow. If you run the table, there's a good chance you'll get one of those double buys in the A10 tourney. Is that the goal right now? Or are you just taking it one step at a time?
Yes, sir. We're just taking it one step at a time. We're just focusing on the next opponent for them, and then we're going to see where it goes from there. And I just can't wait, honestly, because it's been fun to just see the growth of how we all just came together as a team and step things up.
Right. You, Eric, Xavier, I think as a trio can match up with just about any other trio in the country. So, if this team is clicking, how far, do you think you could reasonably go?
Sweet 16. That's one of our goals as well. I think we can go as far as the Sweet 16 and beyond.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I definitely could see that. If you get the double bye, and you would have to win 3 games, 3 days, what do you think is the most important thing for you guys to do to win those 3 games in 3 days?
To stay locked in on the players that we're going against, the scouting report, being locked in on defense, and having a crazy offensive attitude to go out there and just do what we do and play St. Joe's basketball.
Right. In terms of your game, you've made steady progress across the board for 3 straight years. You've developed it into a versatile 2-way player. You have the size, strength, athleticism, skill to play at the next level. And it's not a secret anymore. There's been plenty of pro scouts at probably every one of your games. Has that been a distraction for you?
Not really, because I'm kind of like just being intentional, like just staying there now, and like not really focusing on what's going on the outside. Like I know it's happening for sure. Like I'm not just being, what's the word? I can't think of the word. I'm not just being like, it's not happening and all that. Like
Right.
I know what's going on, obviously, but I've been just being intentional on being connected with my teammates and trying to win games with my guys.
Right. I'm sure you've heard some of the stuff NBA folks are saying about you. What have you heard?
A lot of like first round stuff. That's the main thing. First round
Right.
draft picks. Yeah.
Does that feel a little surreal after not playing a ton in high school and not being heavily recruited? Does that do you sometimes wake up in the morning and say, wow, I can't believe this is happening?
Yeah, but it's more so surreal because like that's always been my dream, like to make it to the league. So like
Right.
I never doubted that this would ever happen because I've always worked towards this point in my life. So that's really why it's like a surreal moment, because it's like now it's really happening.
Right. How would you evaluate your game at this point? Where do you think you could improve? And given your potential, I mean, all the things that you're able to do, what type of player do you ultimately believe you can be?
Honestly, like a player that can do it all. Like whether it comes to making plays for my teammates in terms of like being a playmaker, I can be a play finisher, uh, a crazy rebounder, like literally do anything, guard 1 through 5. Like I feel like I can max out my potential in all those things.
Is there anybody out there in the league now that, or maybe has played in the league before that you kind of like have in your mind? You're like, I think I'm going to be like him.
Not really that I would be like, but my favorite players is LeBron and KD. So I kind of I watched them growing up, so I don't know. Like, I don't really model my game after those two, but it, I don't really see myself as I can't see myself in like any player. I would like to hear comparisons, like maybe on social media or something later on,
You
but
know,
I'm not sure.
I'm an OG, so I got one for you that you probably haven't heard before. But the guy you kind of remind me of at this age
Hmm.
is a guy who I think he played mostly with Seattle. Is Xavier McDaniel? He went to school at Wichita State. You ever hear of him?
Xavier McDaniel.
I think
I
he
don't
played for the
think so.
Knicks. I think he played for the Knicks too.
What year?
Oh, geez.
Oh, wow.
He was probably in school in the 80s.
Oh man.
He's probably my age.
Uh,
Well, you just have that he was all muscle and he could block shots, but also was very athletic. Really could move well. He probably played in the league for a dozen years or more. I don't know if he was ever an all-star, but he certainly was very good. But I know he was an All-American.
Mm.
But all right, so I assume that you're going to go through the draft process this year, but you haven't made any decisions, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is I don't know if you heard, but Cooper Flagg recently said that he's enjoying playing college so much that he might stay one more year at Duke. Is that a possibility? We might still see you on the court in college next year, or?
I mean, anything can happen, but this is really I don't know. The goal is obviously to make it to the next level, but like I said, anything can happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, most people would say if you're going to go in the first round, you'd kind of be crazy not to go. But
Yeah,
I suppose you only could go through college once, at this age. So
right.
I can understand where he's coming from too.
Yeah,
And nobody believes he's going to do it anyway.
yeah. I don't think so.
So I got one last question for you. Of all the guys you've played with, or not with so much, but maybe we'll throw players you've played with. But who are some of the guys who have been a tough matchup for you, and some of the guys who you really hold, really respect their games that
Um,
you've played against?
that I played against. Trying to think. I know one, Xavier Lee.
Right?
That's one.
Yeah. What about Mr. I thought you'd bring up Mr. Harper. Didn't you play against him?
No, I never played against him.
Oh, maybe you weren't there then.
No, I wasn't. I was already here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they played them when I left.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, Rasheer, I know you got an early one tomorrow, and I wish you and the team the best for the rest of the season. And maybe, I know you're going to be busy going through the draft process, but if somehow you could squeeze in and just stop by and let us know how you're doing and come on for a brief interview, we'd love to have you back on.
Cool.
All right.
Bet. Yep.
Good luck. Tell Eric I said hello.
I got you.
How's his hair? Has he been to the barber lately?
I think he going in a little bit, like probably this week, might be.
All righty.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck for the rest of the season, and good luck with everything moving forward.
I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Interesting interviews. And now we're going to move on to great interviews, by the way. I don't mean to sound unenthusiastic. I was just occupied by scrolling down the script to our next section, which is picking the West Coast Conference winner based on the same system we've been using. We go to a site that has consensus odds, and we've been so basically making hypothetical bets, so Drew, we've talked about the West Coast Conference quite a bit. I think there's only really 4 teams that can win this.
Absolutely.
St. Mary's, who's in first, Gonzaga, and is Gonzaga in second, tied with USF?
They are in second. They beat USF this single share second. So it goes. Okay. It's going to go it's going to go St. Mary's, Gonzaga, USF, Santa Clara are the 4, and then I believe the 5 is Oregon State.
Okay. And the interesting thing about the West Coast Conference is they basically make it very easy for the top 2 seeds to get to the championship game, because basically they get double buys, right?
Yeah. That was done very much so to support St. Mary's and Gonzaga, to help punch their ticket to March no matter what, or make it very difficult for them one of them at least not to go.
Right. And so basically Gonzaga and St. Mary's only have to win 1 game to get into the championship game. So that makes them heavy favorites to win this all. So Drew, I think I know who you have here, but just give me some rationale why you think you're making the pick you are.
So, shocker, I'm taking my Zags. I mean, come on, what are we doing? I'd probably take them if they were in 9th place, playing 4 games to get there. No, I'm not that delusional. The reasoning is a couple fold. I still believe first and foremost that from a pure talent standpoint, it's the most talented roster in the conference. It's the deepest roster in the conference. When you look at their 4 conference losses, Oregon State was that overtime game, brutal loss where they were basically allowing what did Oregon State shoot in that game? Oregon State shot something insane from 3 that game on the road. Oregon State shot 43% from 3 and 60% from the floor. They followed that up with a heartbreaker at home against Santa Clara, where Santa Clara, I think, hit 19 threes and shot close to 60%. They get on a bit of a roll and lose to St. Mary's at St. Mary's, lose to St. Mary's in the rematch. I'm still going to take the talent. I'm going to take Mark Few. The second thing is I think USF is an outstanding matchup for them. I think USF, and this is a general criticism I have of them against St. Mary's as well, which they did manage to hold off St. Mary's at home and win, which, is probably their best win of the season. They, for whatever reason, came into this, and Jake and I talked about this coming in, why we had Santa Clara over them. And I still think Santa Clara is the better team, and Santa Clara should have swept USF, mind you. Had Christoph Tilley not missed a free throw with 1 second on the clock and sent to overtime, they would have swept them, if I'm not mistaken. Size. We talk about St. Mary's wanting to plot it up. St. Mary's rolls out 6'9", Paulus Morauskas, newcomer of the year. Deserved award, by the way. 6'10", Mitchell Saxon, who's just an absolute low, just big body. 7-footer Harry Wessel, 7-footer Andrew, I think his name's Andrew McKeever. He's a freshman. 4 huge individuals ranging from all conference type, Power 5 type talent and Morauskas to just big bodies. Gonzaga does the same. Ike, Huff, Ajayi, and Ben Gregg. All of them 6'9 plus, all of them versatile scorers, big bodies, strong veteran. You went in saying we're going to have Carlton, Lingard, and Newberry be our bigs. And I think Newberry would have been a really good pick for a defensive player of the year. Unfortunately, injuries knocked him out. And Carlton Lingard's really more of a stretch, kind of bouncy big. He's not going to mix it up down low. And sure enough, that's all the Zags did. In both matches against USF, they basically just shot 60% inside the paint. And you have an all-conference and upside All-American in Graham Ike, and you think that's going to work for you? Probably not a good bet. I really like their guard trio. Now, Ryan Beasley might be done for the year. I haven't followed up with that, but he suffered an injury in the Gonzaga game. Nemhard poked the ball loose, and they both went for it. And I think somebody rolled up on Beasley, and he had to be helped out. And I heard he ended up to the hospital for X-rays. I didn't follow up on that.
Right.
So you're going to basically be going, can Malik Thomas, who has been, and this is kind of a case I have when other people talk about the other guards in the WCC besides Nemhard and Marshallonis, what do they do against those guys? Thomas was not been good for the most part against those teams. So you're going to basically put the ball in Marcus Williams and Malik Thomas's hands to shoot you in a game against Gonzaga, who is one of the best offenses year in and year out. I just don't think it works. And then when you talk about the matchup between, and I do think St. Mary's handles Santa Clara, I think they have a physical edge or a mental edge over that team that is I don't know what it is, but that team, when they see St. Mary's, I feel like fear. They should athletically and size-wise match up. They're more athletic and they're just as big. And for whatever reason, there's just fear. Now, I will say when they played at St. Mary's the second time, no Adama Ball, no Christoph Tilley, arguably their 2 best players. So, and they made that competitive. So maybe with those 2 back, there's a boost in confidence. And Santa Clara is an elite 3-point shooting team, which is a great equalizer. I just don't know if mentally, though, for whatever reason, Alpha Ball in particular does not show up against that team. And, I give Randy Bennett this. Randy Bennett knows how to build rosters to stymie teams. He does a great job of that against Gonzaga. And look, when you get down to the matchup, again, I'll bet on the talent. I'm going to bet on the fact that in any sport, it's very difficult to beat an opponent 3 times. It's just hard to do. And, those Gonzaga St. Mary's games were very competitive this year. I mean, at one point at Moraga, Gonzaga, in the first 8 to 10 minutes, allowed St. Mary's to shoot 9 for 10 from the floor and got up 8-0 in fouls, so they were in the bonus for 10 minutes. And at one point ended up taking the lead, ended up losing. Nemhard and Ike were really great in that game. Nobody else came along for the ride. Okay, they were right there. At home, Joe Few gets the start. This is not to say it's Joe Few's fault. That team still should have won. But he started and played 3 minutes, I think.
The coach's son, folks. The coach's son, because he was a senior.
Yeah, and but it's you spot a team, an 11-point lead, and a good team. St. Mary's is a good team. the fact that they clawed back and tied it, and again, we're in that game, tells me that Gonzaga can play with these guys. The biggest thing with this team all year is they play 30 minutes of basketball. Pick whatever 30 minutes you want in the game. They play an outstanding 30 minutes every game. That's why they have no blowout losses, and that's why outside of Oregon State, they don't really have like a damn, like, that's a bad loss. But you got to play 40 minutes. You can't let St. Mary's win the first 10, and then you win the next 30, but you spotted them a 90% shooting start. You can't let St. Mary's win the first 10, give them an 11-0 lead, and then have to claw back in to tie it. You can't let a Santa Clara bang 19 threes. You can't let Kentucky get them down 18-20 and fall apart the last, 10 minutes. So I can go on and on. I'm going to take the team. I'm going to bet on Mark Few. This is a team we penciled in the Sweet 16. And the reality of it is, if they want any chance to keep that streak alive, they have to win. They probably have to win both. They got to win one for sure, because right now they're sitting on that 8-9 line where I think they belong. And while I think that I look at the 8-9 line, I think they can beat any of those teams. You ain't beating Duke. You ain't beating Auburn. You ain't beating Houston. The only kind of one-ish seed that I could see them going toe-to-toe with would be Alabama, because Alabama doesn't really defend, and Gonzaga offensively can get things going. But we talked about this, and we talked about rosters changing. Two big factors have emerged for this team that are going to matter. Number one, and I talked about this earlier, Emmanuel Inocente. That kid is the best defender in the WCC and is incredibly good. He is a legitimate defender. And he's been inserted after the Santa Clara Oregon State losses where they gave up 200 points. He was inserted. They've given up 70 only 3 times. Twice to USF, which is the game they want to play, and then against Santa Clara, who got started 9 for 9 or 8 for 9 from 3, and then they shut them out in the second half. The second one, Ismailia Diange, the 7-footer. I don't know if you've seen it, Rich. He came into that Santa Clara game and was plus 24.
Highly regarded prospect.
Dominated. Lob threat for Nemhard, and basically turned everything away at the rim. His presence forced Adam off a ball to dribble off his foot twice and travel once. He didn't play as much during San Francisco, which made sense because since they don't have any presence, they were just going to feed Huff and EK down low. So
right.
I think this kid has huge X factor potential, not just against St. Mary's, but in the tournament, because the last time Gonzaga had a player that can do what he does was Chet Holmgren, and we know how good that team was. So I'm not saying he's Chet. He doesn't have the game offensively, but I watched him do things defensively that were very impressive. Going against veteran bigs, staying down, wearing contact on the chest, not jumping, blocking shots. It might be too little too late. But I'd never bet against Mark Few. It's a very good way to lose money. And if those two can emerge, it gives them something that they have not had in a while, which is an alpha on the defensive end who can knock down some threes and isn't a ball stopper on offense, and a rim protector that can face down, physically has the ability to face down a Saxon and a lot of bigs in the country. So we'll see. Got to roll the balls out. I'm very confident in beating San Francisco. Both wins were by double digit. They've won 32 in a row. The matchup isn't good. St. Mary's is the test. If they can sweep out, I can see them climbing into that 6, maybe that 7-6 range, and then I feel good about them making a Sweet 16 again, because I do think talent-wise, coaching-wise, and metrically, all the signs point that they can do it. If they're on that 8-9 line, that would be a war with teams like UConn, Creighton, Kansas sitting there, and then you're facing a first-round matchup with some really, really good teams. So, like I said, I can go on and on. Give me the Zags, St. Mary's, round 3. I'll take the Zags, and I think it's going to be I think it's a war. I think it's under 10. I think it will be 10 or less, just given the style that St. Mary's will slow down. But we'll see. Someone's got to come along for the ride. Nemar and Ike have been phenomenal in both matchups. Nobody else has shown up. They need a third wheel to come along.
All right. Joey, we have Joey and Josh's picks. Joey is agreeing with Drew and saying, no need to explain my reasoning. Drew's got it. Josh also goes with Gonzaga. By the way, Gonzaga is minus 160. They are the favorite to win this tournament, despite losing twice to St. Mary's and being the number 2 seed. But Josh says, always trust Mark Few to win a couple games in March. He wins a few more than that. But point taken, Josh. I am, well, I have to take only because I think Gonzaga certainly has more talent. But they haven't beaten St. Mary's yet this year. That's why they're not the number 1 seed.
Absolutely.
And if you can get the number 1 seed and get odds, which here is plus 145,
Got to take it. Smart money.
I think you got to take it. I mean, if Gonzaga wins, tip of the cap. But, until they do, I'm going to take the smart money, because otherwise I can bet 16 to win 10 on Gonzaga, or I can bet 10 to win 14 and a half. I'm going to go with St. Mary's here, more so because the numbers make sense to me in terms of betting. If I had to pick this straight up, I'd pick Gonzaga.
It's going to be interesting. I do think Randy has done a really good coaching job and deserved Coach of the Year this year. They swept awards pretty much. They got everything but Freshman of the Year, including 3 first-teamers and an honorable mention. And Mikey Lewis, love that kid. Better than Mahaney ever been. That kid's going to play, and I really feel bad. I don't think he finishes at St. Mary's. That kid can play. We'll see. Randy's got to get to a Sweet 16. I think that there's an underpin of legacy on the line here for him, because I think he's a great coach. But what more do you need to finally get back to a Sweet 16? You have a 2-time Player of the Year, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. You're the 4 years in a row Coach of the Year. You have the Newcomer of the Year, the 6th Man of the Year, 3 first-team All-Conference, and an honorable mention. I would like to see him do it, but I do think there's an underpin of pressure, which I think not for the WCC. St. Mary's is locked in. They could lose to Santa Clara, they're in. I'm not worried about them getting in. And I think they're a 5 seed. I think at worst they're a 6. But man, they got to make some noise. You're gonna have 4 straight 5 seeds in a year, and all this resume stuff. If they don't make some noise, I think when we go back to our discussion earlier, Rich, about kind of gaming the system, I think you can shine the light on them and in a bad way, unfortunately, use them as kind of the poster child.
Yeah, his tournament record's been very Mountain West-like.
It's actually straight up bad. He has 6 wins in March and 1 Sweet 16, and he's been there for 24 years. Now, I know the ascension has only been going on for about the last 10 or 12,
right?
But still, this team should do it, and if they don't, I might be wearing my hater hat a little bit, but I would like to see it happen. All joking aside, it would be good. I know St. Mary's is making a push for the Pac-12 in terms of basketball. I would love to see him do it, because you get St. Mary's, Boise, Gonzaga, San Diego State. That's a great conference. But I would really, really like to see them make some noise. And hey, I'll be honest, shut me up, make me be quiet. I can zip the lip every once in a while. You just got to win to make me do it.
All right. On that note, we're going to move on. Folks, we still have more interviews. And we're going to move on to talking with the winners of the Big Sky Conference, the number 1 seed in the Big Sky tournament. And that's Isaiah Hawthorne and Langston Reynolds. We're going to talk to those guys same time at once. That's a first, Drew. We've never had 2 guests on at the same time. So this should be fun. So this is the first for the show. We have not 1, but 2 guests at the same time. Joining us are Isaiah Hawthorne and Langston Reynolds from Northern Colorado. Both players are all Big Sky candidates, ranking in the top 5 of the conference for scoring. Isaiah is a grad transfer from USF who is averaging 17.4 points and 5.4 rebounds per game. The 6'8" forward ranks in the top 10 of the Big Sky for points per game, steals per game, effective field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3-pointers made, offensive rating, defensive rating, player efficiency rating, win shares, and plus minus. Woo! Langston is a junior who's averaging 16.5 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists. The 6'4" guard ranks in the top 10 of the Big Sky for points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, effective field goal percentage, and win shares. And by the way, he leads the conference in both effective field goal percentage and field goal percentage. Gentlemen, that's a lot of great stats. Usually only got 1 guy to read off all that stuff, but today we have 2. So welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing really good. Yeah.
Are you both still in Colorado?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We leave tomorrow. Yeah.
leave tomorrow. Okay. And by the way, congratulations on winning the big season, regular season title for the Big Sky.
Thank you.
What? I assume you're flying to Boise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long of a trip is that?
It's only like hour and a half.
Oh.
So not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I know, Langston, you grew up in Denver, correct?
Yes. Born and raised.
Well, and Isaiah, I know you were at USF for, a number of years. Did you grow up in California?
Yeah, like an hour away from USF. Yeah,
Okay.
like east of San Francisco.
Okay. And are either of you, now that you both in the Big Sky country, the Rocky Mountain country, are either of you into winter sports?
Nah, not too much.
Yeah, not really. No.
No. Wow. All right. Well, I guess you're playing basketball during the winter. That would explain it. Yeah. All right. So you have the Big Sky Tourney. Now, you guys don't play to the 9th. You have a bye. So do you play on the 9th or the 10th?
We play on that Sunday, so I think it's the 9th.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And on paper, the 2 seed Montana would seemingly be the biggest obstacle, but the Big Sky tournament is anything but predictable. What potential opponent gives you guys the biggest concern? I'll start with you, Langston. And you got a lot of different options. You got Montana State, who's pulled it off 3 years in a row, including being a 5th seed last year, and they won it. No one saw that coming. You got Idaho State, kind of home. We got a home court advantage. Portland State, who can get after you on defense. And then, of course, like I said, Montana. So is there one particular opponent that, you think has the potential to give you some trouble?
I wouldn't say one particular team or like anything like that, but I would say, I've been here 3 years. And like you said, there's been a lot of crazy upsets and things like that. So I think for me, I guess it's always the scariest, just the first game in general, because you don't get that much time on the court, and then the team that you're playing, they're playing for desperation, like they're playing to get to that March Madness just like everybody else is, but they don't really have that much to lose, if that makes sense.
Right.
They're the low seed, they're not as high as us, so I would just say for me, it's always the first game that's always the most nerve-wracking.
Right. That's a great answer. No one's ever described it like that. How about you, Isaiah?
I've been in conference tournaments quite a while, so I've been in college for so long. So I want to say any team really scares me, but I'll just say like it's one game at a time. Like whoever's in front of us will have to get it. So it is what it is for real.
But at USF, having Gonzaga and St. Mary's there, you were probably never in this position where you had the best regular season. It's yours for the taking, and it's like Langston said, a little bit of pressure there, no?
Yeah, but I would say when we made our March Madness run at San Francisco, we had to beat BYU in the first round to make it to March Madness. If we didn't, then we wouldn't make it any tournament. So I'll say I definitely felt that pressure before, and I'll just say it's just one game at a time.
Okay, good. So you guys, I don't know, you may know this or may not, but you lead the nation as a team in field goal percentage, and you're third in effective field goal percentage, which includes it gives you extra credit for three-pointers made, and you're shooting 38% from deep as a team. So offensively, obviously you guys got it going on, but what would you think is your hidden strength, something that maybe doesn't get talked about a lot? And I'll start with you, Isaiah.
I just say everybody's playing to their strengths. Coach gives a lot of confidence to play our game, and we get on transition and get a lot of easy buckets, and we all make the right play at the end of the day.
And Langston?
I would say, we're a very underlooked rebounding team. I think a lot of people just don't really see that. That's kind of how we get out in transition. That's how we're so effective. I think that's just kind of like a big point. So I think defensively and then just rebounding is just kind of something that's overlooked.
Okay. And who would you say is maybe, you guys are, I would say, the conference awards haven't been announced, right?
I don't
No.
believe so. No.
But I would think both of you are in the running for Player of the Year. But who would you say is a guy who's like underrated on the team? Langston? Somebody who maybe doesn't get a lot of credit.
There's obviously a couple of guys that I could say and go with, but I think for me, I'll just say this. For me, I think the top reserve in the league is definitely Marcel McQuarrie. I think he's been overlooked. He's won a lot of big games for us. I'm just thinking back to that Montana State trip. He literally carried us back from 20 points down to get us that win. And he's just not really talked about a lot. So I think he deserves more credit than he's getting right now. So I think that's a big player, I think, for me that needs more attention.
All right. How about you, Isaiah?
I don't know. I feel like we got a lot of dogs on our team. I say probably Jaron, Marcel, or Quinn. One of those three. I feel like that definitely helped us win a lot of games, and they all contribute in their own ways, but definitely those three.
Okay. On a lighter note, who's the funniest guy on the team?
I would say so, because he's just naturally just funny. I say so.
Yeah, I say Marcel for sure.
Okay. We got to get him on the show then. I love humor. So how would you, I'll start with you, Isaiah, how would you describe Coach Smiley? You're coming in from, a different system. And how would you describe him, and what do you really like about him?
First, I'll say he's just a great human being. I feel like he's very positive. He wants what's best for everybody that is part of this team, and he's very detailed. He's very detailed to the point where, like, if we're watching a film and you're not paying attention, you don't have a pen, he's definitely gonna call you out on there or something like that. But I'll just say the way he thinks the game and just the way he gives us confidence to just go out there and just hoop and not think. I think that's his best quality.
All right, Langston?
Yeah, I kind of piggyback off what Zay said. I mean, he's just a great human being. I feel like he's just very honest. And he doesn't really have to do it in a kind of, I'm going to beat you down and build you back up type of way. I feel like he's, very positive, and he's going to tell you the truth, even though, it might hurt your feelings. But at the end of the day, he just wants you to be a better player. And other than that, just a better person, because it's just going to help you in the long run.
Right. And from a technical side, I would kind of call him an offensive genius. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
I mean, Northern Colorado's always got one of the best offenses in the Big Sky, if not the country, like this year. Your toughest game this year was against a team I actually saw in person. Actually, I was texting Coach Smiley while I was watching that game because I knew you guys had him coming up next, and that was Texas Tech. So what did you learn from that loss? And because if you make the big dance, you're going to be playing teams like Texas Tech. So Langston, what did you learn from that loss that you think that could make you better in the NCAA tournament?
I would say, I mean, obviously I learned a lot. It was a hostile environment, obviously. Even though it was Thanksgiving, it felt like everybody, like, it was just packed out. But I would just say we learned kind of how good we can be and how, our biggest enemy is us. I feel like when we just, make little mistakes and paper cuts that are going to cost us a lot down the road. I feel like in those first 2 or 3 medias of the game, we were in the game. We had control at one point. We were up a couple of points or something like that. But I think just being consistent throughout the whole game is just something I think I learned from that game.
Isaiah, I know you played places like Gonzaga and other big venues. So what did you take away from that game that maybe that the team could do better and benefit from in March Madness?
I'll say, basketball's a game of runs. We're gonna go on our run. They're gonna go on their runs. But when they go on their runs, just stay focused and just know that it's just a game of runs, and you just gotta keep going and not overthink it, and just keep playing your game and don't fall into the refs not calling foul because it's an away game or a neutral site game. So I'll just say just keep going.
All right. And as you said, the awards haven't been announced. Is if and you guys could pick yourself. So if you had to pick player of the year in this conference, I'd say there's 5 good choices, and I'm talking to 2. So Isaiah, who would you go with conference player of the year?
My dog Langston Reynolds. My dog Langston, man, for sure.
Langston?
It's great. It's crazy because I was just telling everybody this yesterday. I think Zay should win newcomer and player of the year.
Right.
I just feel like even just throughout this whole year, he should have had more player of the weeks. Like he should have been recognized more. He was overlooked a lot. We're on a winning team. He's averaging double digits on a winning team. He's contributing in every way. I feel like he should get player of the year and newcomer. But yeah, that's just me.
You certainly can make that argument. He's in the top 10 in about every category you can think of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you're in a lot of them too. So, all right. So now we're going to have a little fun competition, and this is all about Northern Colorado. So Isaiah or Langston, you have the advantage on Isaiah here.
Okay.
But Isaiah, you bring a vast amount of experience in your years. So, all right.
Yeah.
So these questions are going to get tougher as we go along. So here's the first one. What former UNC star now plays for the Lakers?
Oh, Dalton Connect.
Dalton. Yeah, Dalton.
All right. You're both 1-1.
Yeah.
All right. Who leads the Big Sky in points per game?
Trent or plays?
I think it's Trent.
Yeah.
All right. We'll give you credit for both because you said Trenton first, and yes, it is Trent. So, all right. So you're 2 for 2, both of you. What former UNC star played for the championship in the Spanish ACB last year, which is the same league Luka Doncic came from?
Oh, Jonah. Is it Jonah Radable?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonah. Okay.
Isaiah?
Yeah, they got that one, Jonah. Yeah, got that one.
All right. So we'll give 3-2 Langston. All right. So this is a multiple choice because this is tough. When was the last time UNC won the Big Sky tournament? 2011, 2017, or 2020?
2011.
2011.
All right, we're going to give that one to Isaiah to even up the score. So we're what? We're 3-3 now. All right. So, all right. This is another tougher one. Multiple choice. Which person did not graduate from UNC? Former NFL player Aaron Smith, actor director Robert Redford, or actress singer Beth Malone? One of those people did not graduate from UNC.
Beth Malone.
Yeah, I don't know that one. I'm not gonna lie. I did not know that.
All right, so it stays a tie. It was Robert Redford. He went to Colorado.
Okay.
So, all right, last one. Could be the tiebreaker, could be the winner. Where did Coach Smiley play in college? What school?
Northern
State.
Northern State, yeah, something
You
like
both
that.
got it. You both got it. By the way, he still ranks second in career assists at that
Jeez.
school. All right.
Wow.
So we don't have a winner. It's a tie. Good job, guys. All right. So one last question for each of you, and I'll start with you, Langston, and then I'll move on to Isaiah. After the season, I know it's ways away, hopefully, and so your plans after the season. What happens in April?
I would say just for me, I mean, obviously the big step is winning the Big Sky. But even after that, I feel like, I have a home here. I mean, I love the staff. I've been in Greeley for the past 3 years. So I think for me, it's just, just kind of staying present, if I'm being honest. Not really worrying about the future because at the end of the day, it's not really my plan, it's God's plan. And whatever he has planned for me, that's just what I'm going to go with. But to be more straightforward, I mean, I would like to test the waters of the draft just to get some feedback and just kind of hear what they have to say and, just go from there.
Right. Smart plan. And Isaiah, you will be in the draft process. So what are your specific plans in April?
Get back in that gym. Get back in that gym and sign with the agent officially and, take it from there one day at a time.
Okay. All right. Well, I wish you both the best, for the rest of the season and moving forward, and the team as well. Thank you for coming on, and come back and visit us.
No, for sure.
Langston, depending on what decision you make, come back. And Isaiah, I'd love to hear, if you have workouts in combines, I'd love to hear how they're going.
I got you, man. Just let me know, man, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys, and good luck later on this week, man. Be watching and rooting for you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All righty. It was great talking to those guys, and we wish them the best in the Big Sky tournament. Mailbag. Again, I haven't checked it lately, but the person who asked the LeBron question, I think he's going to be okay.
The high school prospect that is known as LeBron Ramon.
Right. But I didn't answer the question on air, right? This is the first time I've answered it, right?
Ooh, I think this is the first time you've answered it.
I'm pretty sure I didn't answer it. All right. I'll have to go back and listen so I don't say the same joke twice. All right. So anyway, folks, if you'd like to send us a question for the mailbag, we will definitely be getting to some questions soon, I promise. And we will backlog them. So we take questions via email at admin, ADMIN, at hoopsprospects.com. We also take questions via social media on Twitter at hoopsprospects, on Instagram at thehoopsprospects, and on Facebook at hoopspros. As always, I want to thank our listeners. I want to thank all four of our special guests. And if you ever miss an episode, you can get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. We'll be back next week. More player interviews, and we'll preview the rest of the conference tournaments as March Madness kicks in the full gear. Drew, any last quick words?
Best time of the year. Go Zags. I watch no NBA, but how about the Warriors?
How about Adam Silver contriving that trade to make sure Luka Doncic got in LA? He's getting his wish. Everyone's all pumped up for the Celtics-Lakers.
We were this close. We were this close to the Lakers completely going off a cliff again. Right. LeBron pulled them out of the abyss after Kobe left. They were about to fall right back in. And good old Nico Harrison. Mind you, the same Nico Harrison that spelled Steph Curry's name wrong and cost Nike a chance to land Steph Curry. So in that moment, when I saw that name, I was like, that sounds familiar. Oh, you're the genius that basically gave Steph Curry the finger and pushed him out the door. Great job, Mavs. Outstanding hire.
Here's what I want to say is, if Adam Silver didn't have a hand in that, I would be shocked.
Oh, I'd be shocked. Don't sit there and tell me that was the most cloak and dagger thing. And look, the basketball gods have responded. I feel so bad, but Kyrie, ACL, gone. AD, made out of glass.
And they're raising their season ticket prices.
8%. 8% to watch.
Actually, it's closer to 9. All right, we got to go, folks. This was supposed to be a short show, but you put Drew and I together, and nothing's ever short.
No such thing.
We get talking about basketball. All right, see you soon.